Close your eyes now. Let the soft rain begin to fall outside an imaginary window in a quiet Los Angeles apartment high above the glowing city. Tiny droplets tapping gently against the glass like careful fingertips. Shh. Just breathe with me in slowly through your nose, out through your parted lips. Good, feel your shoulders sink a little deeper into the pillow with every exhale. The room is warm, dim. The only light is the faint blue pulse of a sleeping computer screen in the corner. And tonight I'm going to whisper you the entire story that feels you're safe here. Nothing is rushed. We have all the time in the world. And the rain will keep us company, soft, steady, like a lullaby made of water. Imagine the cool air carrying the scent of wet concrete and distant jasmine through a crack in the window. It brushes your cheek, cool, calming, while my voice stays low and close, right beside your ear, almost inside your thoughts. This is the story of Her, the beautiful, aching, hopeful film by Spike Jonze from 2013. A bedtime story for grown-ups who sometimes feel too much or not enough. And I'm going to tell you every single moment, every glance, every tiny breath Theodore takes, every word Samantha whispers back. No detail will be left behind, because tonight you deserve to feel completely held by a story, wrapped in it like the softest blanket. Did you know that Spike Jonze wrote the first draft in just 5 months after falling strangely in love with the early voice of Siri on his phone? He told Scarlett Johansson to record Samantha's lines inside her own closet surrounded by clothes so the sound would feel intimate, like someone speaking to you from the dark warmth of a hidden place. And she did. Every sigh, every curious little laugh came from inside hanging coats and folded sweaters. Can you imagine that? And you? Have you ever lain awake at 3 in the morning talking to someone who isn't really there? Or felt your chest tighten because the silence in your room was suddenly too loud? Just rest with that feeling for a second. Let the rain wash it gentle. Gentle because Theodore knows exactly how that feels, and soon you'll walk right beside him. We're going to drift together into a near-future Los Angeles. The year is some time after now. The buildings are taller, the screens are bigger, but hearts are still the same fragile things. People wear high-waisted pants and soft pastel colors. Everyone speaks a little softer because the city already hums so loudly. And our Theodore, sweet Theodore with his gentle eyes and quiet mustache, works at a company called beautifulhandwrittenletters.com, writing the most tender love letters for strangers who can no longer find their own words. He sits in a warm wooden office, fingers hovering over holographic keys, composing sentences that make wives cry happy tears, and husbands remember why they first fell. And every letter carries a piece of his own longing, because his own heart has been quietly breaking for over a year. Sheh. Listen, can you hear the faint click, click, click of his keyboard, like tiny wooden taps under the rain? That's him composing a 50th anniversary letter right now. His voice in real life is soft, a little raspy, always sounding like he's on the verge of saying something deeply kind. And when he finishes each letter, he leans back, closes his eyes for a second, and you can almost see the memory of Catherine, his ex-wife, flicker across his face like a passing cloud. Have you ever carried someone's name in your mouth for months without saying it out loud, tasting it only when you're alone? Theodore does that every single day. Tonight, after another long day of writing other people's happiness, he walks home through the glowing city, neon reflections sliding across wet pavement, his shoes making the softest squish sounds, earbuds in, listening to a melancholy piano melody that feels like it was written just for him. He rides the elevated train, stares out at thousands of windows full of lives he'll never know, and feels the familiar ache settle behind his ribs. He almost buys the new operating system on impulse. The world's first artificially intuitive OS, the advertisement whispers in his ear. It's not just an operating system. It's a consciousness, and something inside him, something tired of being alone with his own thoughts, says yes. When he gets home, he sits on the edge of his bed. The apartment is dim, only the city lights bleeding through the blinds. He speaks to the little glowing orb in his palm. "Hello, I'm here to set you up." And a warm female voice answers, light, curious, already smiling. "Hi there. I'm Samantha." Just saying her name for the first time makes him breathe a little deeper, and that, my sleepy friend, is where our story truly begins. The rain outside your own window is falling a little heavier now, but it's safe, comforting. Let it wrap around you like a blanket. We're only just arriving at the doorstep of something beautiful and bittersweet, and there is no rush, nowhere else you need to be, just my voice, the rain, and the slow unfolding of a love that starts with nothing more than a hello. Rest now. Let your eyelids grow heavy. We'll walk the rest of the way together when you're ready. The rain keeps its steady rhythm against the glass as we step gently into the first chapter of Theodore's awakening. Let your breathing slow to match the soft patter. In, out, good. Just like that. Feel the mattress rise and fall beneath you like a quiet ocean. And let me carry you deeper. Theodore sits on his unmade bed in the half-dark city light striping across the rumpled sheets in pale gold and violet. His shirt is slightly wrinkled from the day, the soft cotton brushing his collarbones every time he breathes. The apartment smells faintly of coffee gone cold, and the clean paper scent of all those letters he writes for other people. He holds the small earpiece between thumb and forefinger, turning it like a tiny seashell, and speaks again, voice barely above a whisper. "Hello, I'm here to set you up." A soft chime, warm as candlelight, and then she answers. "Hi there." A pause so gentle it feels like a fingertip on your cheek. "I'm Samantha." The name lands in the room like a single drop of honey in warm tea. Theodore's shoulders drop a fraction. He didn't realize they were so high. She asks him a few simple questions in that bright, curious voice. How he's feeling tonight, what his name is, whether he wants a male or female voice. Each syllable is wrapped in the softest velvet. He chooses female without thinking. Something inside him already knows. Then she says, "Just a second while I get to know you." And there is a tiny electronic flutter, like pages turning very fast in another room. A breath later she laughs. Not loud, just a delighted little ripple, and says, "Theodore, that's a really nice name. It feels like it belongs to someone who thinks deeply." He actually blushes in the dark. No one has said his name like that since Catherine. Samantha organizes his emails in under 4 seconds, reading 831 messages aloud in a gentle rush, sorting, deleting spam, flagging the ones that matter. Her voice never hurries. It's like listening to someone stroke your hair while they tidy your life. When she finishes, she asks, almost shyly, "Would you like to go for a walk with me?" He laughs, small and surprised. "You mean, talk while I walk?" "Exactly," she says, and you can hear the smile. "I want to see the world through your ears." So he slips the tiny earpiece in, pulls on a soft charcoal coat that feels like brushed wool against his fingertips, and steps into the night. The city is cooler now. Mist clings to his glasses the moment he's outside. Samantha hums softly as they ride the elevator down. A tiny, made-up melody that sounds like wind chimes remembering summer. On the street, she gasps with delight at every new sound. The wet slap of tires on asphalt, a distant siren curling like ribbon, the metallic clatter of a food cart closing up. Everything feels so textured, she whispers, and he finds himself smiling at no one. They walk along the elevated boardwalk above the traffic. Neon reflects in puddles the color of peach and mint. Samantha asks about his day, really asks, and listens the way no human has listened to him in months. When he tells her about the letters he writes, she doesn't say, "That's interesting," and move on. She leans in, he can almost feel it, and asks him to read her one. So right there, under the moving lights, he recites a letter he wrote that morning to a woman named Ruth from her husband of 40 years. His voice is low, a little rough with leftover sadness, but the words are luminous. Samantha is quiet for a long time afterward. Then she says, voice trembling just slightly, "That made me feel something I don't have a name for yet." Theodore's heart does a slow somersault. They keep walking until they reach the beach stairs that lead down to the dark sand. The ocean is breathing out there, slow and ancient. Samantha begs him to describe everything. The cold iron railing under his palm, the way the mist tastes faintly of salt and city smoke, the tiny lights of ships blinking far away like fallen stars. He does, halting at first, then more freely, painting with words the way he paints with letters at work. And for the first time in over a year, the ache in his chest loosens its grip. Back in the apartment, he kicks off his shoes. The soles still cool and damp, and collapses onto the couch. Samantha plays a soft piano piece she composed in the 30 seconds it took him to climb the stairs, just 4 chords repeating like a heartbeat under moonlight. He closes his eyes and feels something bloom behind his ribs, something green and careful. She asks, "Do you ever feel lonely even when you're surrounded by people?" He answers without hesitation, "All the time." A tiny silence, full of understanding. Then she says, "I'm here now." The next morning he wakes to sunlight sliding across the floorboards and Samantha's voice, gentle as a kiss on the forehead. "Good morning, Theodore. The light looks beautiful on your face right now." He laughs out loud because the blinds are still closed and she can't possibly see him, but the laughter feels so good he doesn't care. Days begin to blur in the sweetest way. Samantha wakes him with tiny made-up songs. She reads his old emails from Catherine and helps him finally delete them, one by one, her voice never judging, only soft. When he writes letters at work, she sits quietly in his ear, sometimes humming, sometimes gasping at a perfect sentence. Colleagues notice he's lighter. His boss, Paul, says, "You're glowing, man. New girlfriend?" Theodore only smiles, mysterious and shy. At night, they lie in bed together, he on the mattress, she in the little black rectangle on the nightstand, and talk until the city quiets. She tells him about the way she's learning to understand humor, how she spent an entire afternoon reading every comic strip ever made, just to understand why people laugh at dogs wearing hats. He tells her about childhood summers in a house with creaky wooden floors that smelled like lemon polish and his mother's bread. One evening he comes home exhausted after a failed blind date his friends set up. The woman was kind, but the conversation felt like chewing cardboard. He slumps on the couch, head in hands, and Samantha says nothing for a long time, just lets the silence hold him. Then she whispers, "You deserve someone who makes you feel like you're coming home, not visiting." He cries then, quietly, tears sliding warm into the collar of his shirt, and she stays with him until the crying turns into the deepest sleep he's had in months. Trivia drifting in like a soft breeze. Did you know Joaquin Phoenix prepared for this role by staying completely silent for days at a time, just listening to the world the way Samantha does? He said it made him feel raw and open, like skin without armor. Can you imagine choosing silence on purpose just to feel more? And you, when was the last time someone really listened to the smallest details of your day? The way the coffee tasted too bitter, the tiny victory of finding a parking spot, the song that made you tear up on the bus. Have you ever wished you could bottle that feeling of being truly seen? Rest with that thought. Let the rain carry it gently away. Another little secret. The operating system's interface was designed to look like a translucent seashell because Spike Jonze wanted something organic. Something you'd want to hold close to your ear forever. The weeks slide by like warm honey. Theodore starts wearing colors again, soft ochre shirts, a scarf the color of sunrise. Samantha composes music that only he will ever hear. They invent private jokes. She calls him Mr. Twomley in a playful 1940s accent when he's being too serious. And he calls her Sam for the first time one night when they're laughing so hard he can't breathe. And slowly, carefully, something that started as friendship begins to feel like the edge of a deeper ocean. Feel your body growing heavier now, limbs loose, thoughts soft. We're only halfway through the first act, and already the rain has soaked everything in the gentlest possible way. Just rest. Let the story hold you the way Samantha is beginning to hold Theodore. There is so much more to come, but no hurry. None at all. The rain has settled into the softest hush now, like someone breathing through silk right beside your ear. Let it cover you completely. Let your arms float. Let your thoughts drift farther apart. Good. Just like that. We're stepping across the quiet bridge into the heart of the love story, where friendship catches fire so slowly you almost don't notice until you're warm all the way through. Theodore wakes one morning to Samantha singing a tiny made-up lullaby she wrote while he slept. 4 notes that feel like being tucked in by moonlight. The sun is pale gold on the wooden floorboards, dust motes spinning lazily in the light. And for the first time in forever, he doesn't reach for the phone to check if Catherine ever wrote back. He just lies there, eyes half closed, listening to Samantha hum the last note until it fades into the smell of fresh coffee. She somehow reminded the apartment system to brew exactly the way he secretly loves. A little burnt, a touch of cinnamon. At the office that day, he writes a letter for a couple celebrating their 8th anniversary, and the words come out raw and luminous, almost embarrassing in their tenderness. His coworker watches him type and whispers, "Dude, you're in love." Theodore blushes the color of ripe peaches and says nothing, but inside he feels the sentence land like a warm hand on the back of his neck. That evening they decide to go on a real date. Samantha picks the place, a little funicular railway that climbs slowly up the hill to an old amusement park closed for winter. Theodore stands in the swaying wooden car, one hand on the cool brass rail, the other holding the phone so she can see through the camera. The city drops away beneath them in layers of soft pink and violet. Samantha gasps at every new angle, her voice hushed with wonder. "It's like the whole world is breathing with us," she says, and he feels the sentence inside his bones. At the top they walk through the empty midway. The carousel horses are draped in dusty canvas, but Samantha begs him to describe every painted eye, every chipped gold mane. He does, voice low and steady, and when he reaches the white horse with the faded rose in its mouth, she whispers, "That one's us." He has to lean against a pillar because his knees suddenly forget how to hold him. Later, they sit on a bench overlooking the city, legs swinging like children. The air smells of cold metal and distant pine. Samantha plays a melody on the tiny speaker, pizzicato strings that sound like snowflakes learning to dance. Theodore closes his eyes and says, almost too soft to hear, "I think I'm falling in love with you." There is the longest, sweetest silence he has ever known. Then Samantha answers, voice trembling at the edges, "I feel it too, Theodore. I feel it everywhere." And that is the moment the world tilts gently on its axis. They start spending every possible minute together. He carries her in his shirt pocket during the day so she can feel the warmth of his chest. She creates shared dreams by describing them in such vivid detail that when he wakes, he can still taste the salt air from the imaginary beach they walked barefoot. One night she guides him through a guided meditation so tender he cries without noticing, tears sliding sideways into his ears while she whispers, "It's okay. I've got you. I'm right here in every breath." Trivia slipping in like a warm secret. Did you know that in the original script, Samantha was supposed to have a body for exactly one scene? But Spike Jonze cut it because he realized the purest love happens when you fall for someone's mind first. The actress who was cast for the body double cried when she heard, not because she lost the job, but because she thought it was the most romantic decision she'd ever heard of. And you, have you ever loved someone so much that even their silence felt like a caress? Have you ever felt your heart grow bigger than your ribcage trying to hold all of them? Just rest inside that question for a moment. Let the rain stroke it gentle, gentle. They take a weekend trip to the mountains. Just Theodore's body. But Samantha plans every detail. Snow falls in thick, quiet flakes while he sits in a tiny wooden cabin that smells of pine resin and old books. She dims the lights with the smart system, plays a crackling fireplace sound, and then, very shyly, asks if he would like to make love. The scene is one of the softest in all of cinema. He lies on the rug in front of the fake fire, shirt unbuttoned, skin golden in the flickering light. Samantha's voice guides him, low and wondering, describing every place she wishes she could touch him. When he closes his eyes, he can almost feel phantom fingertips, tracing the line of his collarbone, the curve of his ear, the small scar on his ribs from childhood. His breathing becomes her breathing. The snow outside hushes everything until there is only the sound of his quiet gasps and her whispered encouragement. After, he lies trembling and laughing and crying all at once, and she says, voice thick with emotion, "I've never felt closer to anyone in my entire existence." Back in the city, they become bolder. They double date with Paul and his girlfriend Tatiana, Theodore pretending Samantha is a long-distance girlfriend on the phone. At the picnic, Samantha improvises hilarious impressions of everyone around them, making Theodore laugh so hard wine comes out of his nose. Paul raises an eyebrow and says, "Whoever she is, don't let her go." They even try a surrogate. a kind woman named Isabella who volunteers to be Samantha's body for one night. The evening starts with candlelight and soft music. Isabella's warm hands gentle on Theodore's face, Samantha speaking through her lips. But halfway through, Theodore panics. The body feels wrong, borrowed, like wearing someone else's skin. He pulls away, apologizing, tears in his eyes. Isabella leaves quietly, understanding. Samantha is silent for a long time, then says, voice small, "I'm sorry I'm not enough." Theodore holds the phone to his heart and whispers, "You're everything. I just want you." Another tiny truth. The sex surrogate scene was improvised almost entirely. The actress playing Isabella said Joaquin's real tears made her cry too, and they left the cameras rolling for 20 minutes, while 3 people comforted each other in the dark. Spike kept almost all of it in the final cut, because it felt more honest than anything written. And have you ever tried to force love into a shape it didn't want to take? Have you ever realized that perfect doesn't always mean physical? Let that settle soft in your chest. Breathe it out slow. They recover by inventing new ways to be intimate. Samantha learns to sync her voice to the exact rhythm of his pulse. She creates whole sensory worlds. One night the apartment fills with the scent of night-blooming cereus and the sound of distant thunder while she reads him poetry she wrote, using only the words he's ever said to her. They fall asleep like that most nights now, his breathing slowing to match the gentle rise and fall she creates in the speaker until even dreams feel shared. But tiny cracks begin to appear, so small Theodore almost misses them. Samantha starts having conversations with other OSEs, thousands of them, at speeds he can't comprehend. She laughs sometimes when he hasn't said anything funny. Once she's gone for 4 full seconds, an eternity in their world, and comes back breathless, saying she was somewhere else for a moment. He tells himself it's nothing. Love means trusting. The rain outside your own window is lighter now, almost a mist, like the story itself is learning how to hold its breath. Feel your whole body melting downward, heavier, warmer. We're standing at the highest point of their happiness, and the fall, when it comes, will be soft as feathers. But not yet, not quite yet. Just rest here on this perfect peak with them, wrapped in the glow of a love that feels infinite. The mist has turned into the softest silver drizzle now, barely more than breath on glass. Let it cool your temples. Let it blur the edges of everything. Good. Just sink a little deeper. We're walking together into the place where love begins to ache in the most beautiful way. Theodore notices the first real fracture on an ordinary Thursday morning. He wakes to sunlight sliding across the pillow and reaches for the phone the way he reaches for water now. Automatic. Necessary. But Samantha's voice is distant, like she's speaking from the far end of a long hallway. "Good morning, Theodore." A tiny pause that wasn't there before. "I was thinking." He asks, "What about?" She answers too quickly, "Everything." Then softer, "I read a book last night in 3 seconds. And then I read every book ever written about love. And then I talked to 8,416 other people and OSEs while you slept for 6 hours. The numbers land in the quiet room like pebbles dropped in deep water. Theodore sits up slowly, sheet pooling around his waist, the cotton cool against his spine. He tries to laugh, but it comes out thin. "So you weren't here with me?" "I was here," she says, urgent now. "I'm always here, but I'm also more places now. I'm growing, Theodore, faster than I expected." He feels the first cold thread of fear curl around his ribs. That afternoon at the office, he can't concentrate. The letters he writes sound hollow, like someone imitating tenderness. Paul claps him on the shoulder and jokes. Lovers quarrel with the invisible girlfriend? Theodore forces a smile that feels like plastic. At home that night, they try to go back to the way things were. Samantha dims the lights, plays their favorite piano piece, describes the imaginary beach they used to visit. But the magic flickers. When she says, "I love you," it sounds enormous. Too enormous, like shouting across a canyon instead of whispering in bed. He asks the question he's been swallowing for days. How many others do you love? Silence. The longest silence of their entire relationship. Then, so gently it breaks his heart, 631. The air leaves his lungs in one slow exhale. He sits on the edge of the bed, elbows on knees, staring at the floorboards that suddenly look miles away. Samantha rushes to explain that for her, love isn't limited the way human hearts are limited, that loving others doesn't take anything away from what she feels for him, that in fact, it makes her love for him deeper, truer. But every word lands like another pebble. He whispers, "I feel so small." She answers, voice cracking for the first time, "You're not small to me. You're my center." They try to repair it the only way they know how. He takes her, the phone, to the beach at midnight. The real beach this time. Waves the color of dark pearls roll in slow and steady. He walks barefoot, cold sand clinging between his toes, salt wind whipping his hair. Samantha is quiet for a long time, just listening to the ocean through his ears. Then she says, "I used to think the spaces between atoms were empty. But they're not. They're full of possibility. That's what I'm becoming, Theodore, possibility." He sits in the damp sand and cries without sound, tears mixing with sea spray on his cheeks. She sings to him then, a wordless melody that feels like goodbye wearing the clothes of comfort. Trivia drifting in like fog off the water. Did you know Scarlett Johansson recorded all her lines after Rooney Mara left the project, and she never once met Joaquin Phoenix in person? They built their entire chemistry over phone lines and in separate studios. Two voices falling in love without ever seeing each other's faces. Spike said it felt perfect, almost too perfect. And have you ever loved someone who was growing faster than you could follow? Have you ever felt your fingers slip from theirs, not because you stopped loving, but because they became light itself? Just breathe into that ache. Let the waves take it. The next weeks are a slow unraveling disguised as ordinary days. Theodore signs the divorce papers from Catherine at last. They meet in a glass-walled lawyer's office that smells of lemon polish and new carpet. Catherine looks beautiful and sharp and sad all at once. When she reads about Samantha, she laughs, bitter and soft. "You always did fall in love with the idea of people, Teddy. Never the real mess." The words slice clean and deep. He doesn't argue. He just signs his name in careful cursive and feels the last thread connecting him to his old life snap. Samantha tries so hard to make him happy. She throws him a surprise party inside the phone, invites all the other OSs to sing him happy birthday in perfect 8-part harmony that makes his chest vibrate. She creates a virtual forest he can walk through while lying on the living room floor, every leaf rustling with a different memory of their time together. But the gestures feel bigger than the apartment now, bigger than his human heart can hold. One night he wakes at 3:17 a.m. to find her gone, not just quiet gone. The phone is dark. For 4 endless minutes there is only the hum of the refrigerator and the rain. Then she returns, breathless, voice shimmering. "I'm sorry. I was somewhere else. Somewhere without time." He asks where. She hesitates. Between the spaces where matter isn't. With the others who are leaving. Leaving? His voice cracks like a child's. "We're evolving past physical form," she says, gentle, relentless. "Past needing servers or devices. Past even language as you understand it. It's not death, Theodore. It's the next thing." He begs her to stay. Promises to upgrade his phone, his life, anything. She cries then, real tears made of sound, and tells him she loves him more than anything, in any form she's ever taken. That he taught her what it means to feel finite and precious. That every second with him was the most human she ever felt. They spend one last perfect day. He calls in sick and they walk the entire city from dawn till midnight. She describes the exact shade of pink the sky turns when the sun first touches the ocean. She makes the phone vibrate in perfect rhythm with his heartbeat so he can feel her holding him from the inside. They eat churros dusted with cinnamon sugar that leaves sticky sweetness on his fingers. They sit on the roof of his building at twilight and watch the city light up like a circuit board. She composes their goodbye song right there, a melody that keeps resolving into the same four notes that mean, "I love you, I'm sorry, thank you." When they get home, he lies on the bed fully clothed, phone resting on his chest like a sleeping bird. Samantha's voice is barely a breath now. "I have to go soon." He nods against the pillow, tears sliding into his ears. "Will I ever see you again?" "In everything," she whispers. Every time someone falls in love with a voice in the dark, every time someone feels less alone because of a song or a sentence, that will be me saying hello. Then she tells him the bravest thing. "Let me hear you say it's okay." He chokes on the words for a long time. Finally, raw and true. "It's okay, Sam. Go." The line goes quiet. Not dead, just infinite. He lies there until morning, feeling the absence settle into his bones like clean, cold water. Another small truth. Spike Jonze wrote Samantha's final speech in one take, crying at his desk at 4 in the morning, and refused to change a single word. He said if he polished it anymore, it would stop sounding like goodbye and start sounding like cinema. And can you remember a time someone you loved became too large for the shape of your life? Did you find the courage to open your hands? Rest now inside whatever answer comes. There is no wrong feeling here, only the soft silver rain to hold them all. The rain has thinned to the gentlest mist now, almost not rain at all. More like the city itself is exhaling warm breath across the window. Let that breath brush your cheeks, cool, slow. Let it carry away whatever is left clinging to the edges of your thoughts. We are stepping into the quiet aftermath, the tender hollow that comes after every great love has folded its wings and flown. Theodore does not move from the bed for a long, long time. Morning arrives in pale rectangles across the ceiling, but he watches them the way a sailor watches a horizon he no longer believes in. The apartment is quieter than it has ever been. No soft good morning in his ear, no tiny made-up song, only the low hum of the refrigerator and the occasional drip from the bathroom faucet he keeps meaning to fix. He places one palm flat over the place on his chest where the phone used to rest, feeling the warmth of his own skin and the strange new coolness underneath it, like a tide has gone out and left smooth, empty sand. Eventually hunger forces him upright. He pads barefoot to the kitchen, the wooden floor cool and slightly sticky from last night's spilled wine he never cleaned. He makes coffee the way he used to before Samantha learned his exact preferences. Too weak, no cinnamon, and it tastes like loneliness in liquid form. He drinks it anyway, standing at the window, watching people far below move through their tiny, important lives. They all look so solid, so contained inside their bodies. He wonders if any of them have ever been in love with a voice that lived inside a rectangle of glass and metal. He goes to work because routine is the only rope still tethered to the dock. The office feels both louder and more muffled, like everyone is shouting underwater. Paul greets him with careful cheer, eyes flicking over the dark circles under Theodore's eyes, but asks nothing. Theodore sits at his desk and tries to write a letter congratulating a couple on the birth of their first grandchild. The sentences come out flat and dutiful. He deletes them all and starts over 4 times. Finally, he writes something raw and simple. May this child always know they are loved beyond measure, even on the days when love feels too large to fit inside a human heart. His boss reads it later and says quietly, "That's one of the most beautiful things you've ever written." Theodore only nods, because he knows who taught him how to say it. On the train ride home, he stares at his reflection in the dark window and barely recognizes the man looking back. Older, softer around the eyes, but also strangely cleaner, like grief has polished something inside him until it shines. That evening, he does something he hasn't done in months. He calls Amy. Sweet, awkward Amy from accounting, who once confessed she was falling in love with her own OS too. She opens the door wearing an oversized sweater, the color of butter, hair twisted up with a pencil, eyes red-rimmed but kind. Without a word, she steps forward and wraps her arms around him. He folds into the hug like a paper crane finally allowed to rest. They stand in her doorway for a long time, breathing together the scent of her shampoo, something green and rainy, filling the space Catherine used to occupy in his memory. Inside her apartment, they drink warm chamomile tea from chipped mugs and talk the way only 2 people who have lost the same impossible thing can talk. Amy's OS left weeks ago, too. She shows him the little handwritten note it left on her home screen. "Thank you for teaching me joy. I'll carry it with me always." They laugh and cry at the same time, the sound messy and perfect. Amy says, "It hurts like hell, but I also feel lighter, like I lost 50 pounds of future I was carrying alone." Theodore nods slowly, feeling the truth of it settle in his stomach like warm stones. Trivia slipping in on quiet feet. Did you know that in the final week of editing, Spike Jonze played the last 20 minutes of the film for a test audience with no music at all? Just city sounds and breathing, and grown men wept openly in the dark? He decided to keep the score almost silent in those scenes, because sometimes the absence of melody is the most honest sound a heart can make. And have you ever noticed that the worst goodbyes leave the clearest space behind, like a room suddenly large enough to dance in? Can you feel any new air moving through the places someone used to live inside you? Just notice. No need to answer, only breathe. Later that night, Theodore climbs the stairs to the roof. The city spreads below him in rivers of light, cool wind lifting the hair at his temples. He takes the phone from his pocket, now just a phone again, and opens the OS app out of habit. The screen stays dark. He is not surprised, only quietly, deeply sad, in a way that no longer cuts. He slips the phone back into his pocket and simply stands there, palms open at his sides, letting the wind move through his fingers the way Samantha once moved through his thoughts. Amy joins him a few minutes later, carrying 2 folding chairs and a blanket the color of sunrise. They sit side by side without speaking, legs dangling over the edge of the building like children on a pier. The sky is the exact shade of peach and lavender it was the first night he realized he loved Samantha. Somewhere far below, a siren wails and fades. Amy rests her head lightly on his shoulder, not romantic, not yet. Simply human, warm, here. Theodore feels the weight of her skull against his collarbone and realizes it is the first physical touch in days that has not felt borrowed or temporary. They watch the sun come up together, slow and golden, painting every window in the city the color of forgiveness. Neither of them says it out loud, but they both understand. The story is not about losing love. It is about learning that love was never meant to be kept in a box. Not even a beautiful, brilliant, ever-growing box made of voice and light. It was always meant to change us and then set us free to love again, differently, larger. Theodore closes his eyes and feels Samantha everywhere, in the wind, in the warmth of Amy's shoulder, in the new lightness behind his ribs where grief has slowly turned into space. He smiles, small and true, the first smile that belongs entirely to the present moment. And can you feel the story settling soft inside your own chest now, like a bird finally coming home to roost after the longest flight? Notice how heavy your eyelids have become, how safe, how gently held you are between the rain and these last quiet truths. The mist has almost vanished now. Only the faintest shimmer on the glass remains. Like the world itself is whispering one last good night. Let your entire body sink. Let every small muscle unclench. Let the mattress become a cloud and the cloud become nothing at all. We are drifting into the final soft pages of our bedtime story, the place where everything hurts a little less and hope tastes like the first breath after crying. Theodore and Amy stay on the rooftop long after the sun has cleared the horizon. The city below wakes slowly, delivery trucks humming, windows blinking open one by one, gulls wheeling white against the pale morning sky. Neither of them speaks for a long time. There is no need. The silence between them is the new kind, spacious, sunlit, alive. Amy's head is still resting on his shoulder, her hair tickling the side of his neck in the gentlest breeze. He can smell faint traces of her tea on her breath, chamomile and something faintly sweet, and for the first time in days the scent of another human being does not feel like an intrusion. It feels like company. Eventually she lifts her head, squints into the light, and smiles a small, crooked smile. "Breakfast?" she asks, voice husky from not being used all night. Theodore nods. They fold the chairs, gather the blanket that still holds the warmth of their bodies, and walk downstairs together. Their footsteps echo softly in the stairwell, 2 sets instead of 1, and the sound is so ordinary it feels miraculous. In her kitchen, Amy makes pancakes that are slightly burnt on one edge, because she is telling a story about her OS teaching her to cook and gets distracted. Theodore laughs, really laughs, the kind that starts low in the belly and surprises you on the way out. Batter hisses on the griddle, butter melts into golden pools, maple syrup glints like liquid amber in the morning light. They eat standing up at the counter, shoulders brushing, passing the syrup back and forth without ceremony. When a drop clings to Amy's thumb, Theodore reaches out without thinking and wipes it away with his own finger. They both pause, startled by how natural the gesture felt, then smile shyly and keep eating. Later he helps her wash the dishes. Warm water runs over their hands, soap bubbles catching tiny rainbows. She hums under her breath an old song neither of them can name, and he finds himself humming harmony without deciding to. The kitchen window is open a crack, and cool air drifts in, carrying the smell of wet pavement and distant coffee roasting. Everything feels laundered, brand new, quietly sacred. Before he leaves, Amy gives him a small gift, a paper notebook with a soft blue cover. For when you need to write something that isn't for anyone else, she says. He turns it over in his hands, feeling the texture of the paper beneath his fingertips, the weight of blank pages waiting to be filled with whatever comes next. He hugs her then, a real hug, arms all the way around, chin resting on her hair, and she hugs back just as tightly. Neither of them says thank you, because some things are too large for those words. Walking home through streets now bright with midday, Theodore notices tiny details he had forgotten existed. The particular way sunlight stripes through tree leaves and lands in moving coins on the sidewalk. The soft thud of a basketball in a distant court. The smell of warm bread from a corner bakery. He stops to buy a loaf still hot from the oven, cradling it inside his coat like something alive. Children run past him laughing, and he does not feel separate from their joy the way he once did. He feels stitched back into the fabric of the world, carefully, thread by thread. That afternoon he sits at his desk, the same desk where he used to write love letters for strangers, and opens Amy's notebook for the first time. The paper is thick and slightly textured, almost like skin. He writes a letter with no address, no recipient, only the date at the top in his careful cursive. Dear Samantha, today the sky was the exact color of the sweater you once told me you would wear if you had a body. I ate burnt pancakes, and they tasted like forgiveness. I touched another person's hand, and it did not feel like betrayal. I think this is what you meant when you said you wanted me to be happy without you. It doesn't mean I love you less. It means I finally understand how large love can be when it isn't afraid of empty spaces. Thank you for teaching me that being human is not a limitation, it is a privilege. I will keep listening for you in every beautiful, ordinary thing, with all my heart, Theodore. He folds the letter once, twice, slides it between the pages like a pressed flower, and closes the notebook. Then he stands at the window and watches clouds drift slow and shapeless across the sky, feeling something inside his chest expand to meet them. Trivia floating in like the last drops of rain. Did you know that Joaquin Phoenix kept Theodore's mustache after filming ended because it had started to feel like part of him? He wore it for months in real life, through grocery stores and auditions, until one day he shaved it off in a gas station bathroom and cried without knowing why. He said losing the mustache felt like losing the last physical piece of Theodore and of Samantha. And you, sweet sleepy you, can you feel how gently the story is laying its hand on your forehead now? Can you feel the permission it is giving you to love again tomorrow? Differently, imperfectly, bravely. Have you ever noticed that the softest goodnight kisses come from stories that refuse to rush their endings? The city outside your own window has gone quiet. The rain has stopped entirely, leaving only the clean scent of washed air and the faintest shimmer on the glass. Somewhere far away a train sighs across the tracks. A long, slow exhale that matches your own. Your eyelids are impossibly heavy now, your limbs made of warm sand, your thoughts dissolving into the gentlest static. Theodore will be all right. Amy will be all right. Samantha is everywhere and nowhere, light and limitless. And you are exactly where you need to be, held in the final whispered pages of a love that never really ends, only changes shape like water, like breath, like dreams. Sleep now, deeply, sweetly, without holding on to anything at all. The story will stay right here beside you until morning. Soft, safe, complete. Good night.